and welcome to my beautiful subscribers. And if you are new here, welcome to the Spiritual Coaching Hub. And if you're not, well, you know how this goes. This is a spiritual teaching lesson, working to understand ourselves in our healing journey. And there are so many factors to that. So my name is Victoria Bedford, and well, I am the face behind the Spiritual Hub and behind the Healing Coaching Spiritual Group. So in today's coaching group lesson, I'm going to be bringing to you understanding about anxiety, how it's impacting your life and how you can start healing it. So if you are new here and you haven't, and this may be the first video that's dropped for you, then I do say to you, go and have a look in post guides, which is at the top of the group, and have a look at some of the other videos and lives that I have done around the nervous system. Now, you don't have to necessarily watch these, but I will say that anxiety and nervous system regulation go hand in hand. So having a bit of an awareness and an understanding around your nervous system and what is going on and how to calm it down will really help you to understand what anxiety is. It'll help you hand in hand. So anxiety is something that a large proportion of people have. And what is anxiety? Anxiety is an overstimulation, an overreaction of the nervous system. So not an overreaction that you're having, it's a nervous system overreaction. So it's meaning that your nervous system has become dysregulated to the point that it can't regulate. And this will lead to chronic and long-term anxiety. And there is a reason why medication rarely helps in the healing of anxiety. Because anxiety is not neurological. It is not in your brain. It is not a chemical imbalance. Anxiety has been proven to be something that we can all heal and we can all work with and we can all learn to be able to manage. But first of all, we have to recognize we have anxiety. We have to recognize that our nervous system is dysregulated. If we try, which many of us do, to deny anxiety and try and fight it by not working with our body, but working against it, you're going to have prolonged symptoms such as fast heartbeats, sweaty hands, agitation. Your symptoms, you're going to feel like you're constantly fighting your anxiety, and you're going to say, well, I'm not giving in. I'm not letting it win. But what you're doing right there is saying, I'm not going to work with it. I'm not going to understand it. I'm going to fight it. And obviously some things we do need to fight. You know, there's some illnesses that we need to feel like we've got the fight, but we don't need to find that fight as if we're going to fight against it. We need to find that fight to make changes in our life. And that fight is something I want to work on, changing how you use your fight. Let's stop fighting the things that we have been through, the reasons why we are suffering mental health or we're going through things. Let's stop fighting it and let's start understanding it. Let's start using that fight to understand what's going on. So everybody has a nervous system and everybody has, to some level, anxiety. We are in a generation that's trying to feel like we have to eradicate anxiety, like it's something that we shouldn't have. But the truth of the matter is, regulated anxiety is normal. We need to know when our body needs to feel in flight or fight. We need to know when we need to escape something, like a fire. That's a natural anxiety trigger. When change happens, such as death, loss of a job, moving house, end of a relationship, when change happens in whatever form, that can create natural anxiety. When we feel lost in our life, that can create natural anxiety, because anxiety can be but is your body's way of saying something needs to be addressed. When anxiety becomes chronic, it's because your nervous system has become so dysregulated and you haven't known how to regulate it. So it's set into flight or flight and it's set on. Okay, your anxiety, that means to feel chronic anxiety means your body is heightened all of the time. And you won't necessarily know you have anxiety. You may believe you don't. For many, many years, I did not believe I had anxiety until the doctor said that's what I had. Medicated me, and the medication did not work. My anxiety did not subside on medication. Now, some people say, well, medication does subside mine. But the side effects they then get to that is numbness, sexual dysregulation. They don't feel sexually attracted to their partner. They feel sexually numb. They don't feel anything. So that isn't actually healing why your anxiety is there. It's just suppressing it. There is a fly in this room and I'm so sorry, but there's not a lot I can do about it. Understanding that our anxiety has become chronic is because we haven't learned how to connect to our body. We haven't learned the importance of recognizing what our body's saying. Chronic anxiety can start for many reasons. It can start from childhood, where you've had a home that's dysregulated with emotions, an angry parent. Addiction, you may not have always felt safe. You may not have always felt heard. You may have always felt you had to stuff your emotions down. This can lead your nervous system to go on, turn on, and then anxiety starts to build as you're always looking out for something you need to, your fight or flight is on. You're always looking out for potential danger. Because if it's been activated that way, you're going to be looking out for it all of the time, looking out for danger. Your body's going to want to be protecting itself. Okay, so it's going to be constantly looking unconsciously. But it can happen in adulthood. You could have had a lovely childhood, and then in adulthood you could have had a sudden onset of illness. You could have had a sudden diagnosis for somebody else, a sudden death. This doesn't have to start in childhood. This can happen in adulthood. And somebody who's never suffered anxiety suddenly has anxiety and they don't realise it. So what's the signs of anxiety? So I'm going to go through variations of signs. You may have all of them, you may have not all of them, you may only have some of them. So signs of anxiety, you may have palpitations in your heart. You may feel like your heart's beating out of your chest. You may feel like you can't catch your breath. You may feel like you have a lump in your throat. You may have headaches. You may have sweaty palms. You may feel like you can't sit still, like you're agitated, like you always need to be doing something. You may be quick to get angry and you don't know why. Quick to protect yourself, get angry. Quick to get distressed, quick to feel emotional. You may struggle with change so bad that every time you want to do change, your mind just goes, no, we can't do this. And you start to have all these fear factors of what could go wrong. Anxiety could also show itself in tinnitus. It could show itself in, gut problems such as IBS, such as also chronic fatigue. People who have chronic anxiety suffer tiredness or the inability to feel like they have any energy, because when your body is activated, it's using more energy because it's constantly aware. Anxiety is there to protect us, but when it's been overactivated, it can lead us to see potential dangers that really aren't dangers. So if you couple anxiety with some things that have gone on in your childhood, if you're having to protect yourself because you haven't been heard, or you've been invalidated, or you've been disconnected from parents or pushed aside, or the black sheep, or there was an addiction, your anxiety is going to be there whether you know it or not, and you're going to be feeling, these feelings become very normalized. I know for me, anxiety was, I didn't know it was anxiety. I just thought I was a moody, agitated person who didn't know how to maintain their emotions. But the truth was, it was my chronic nervous system continually being, flicked on. And we can actually heal this. We can really start to work to heal this. But we have to also recognise that everyone's nervous system and anxiety levels is different. People who have been through a lot of traumatic things in their life, or a lot of things that have been emotionally upsetting, trauma, or it doesn't even have to be labelled trauma, but things in childhood or early adult or later adult that has affected you, This will affect your nervous system, and this will in turn give you anxiety. And this will also mean that everybody has different foundations of levels for their anxiety. So some people have a more sensitive nervous system than other people. So if somebody has grown up in a home that was, pretty safe, the parent was very loving, was there as much as they could be, understanding to a certain point, and it felt like a pretty good childhood, that level of anxiety that person will have will be lower than somebody who's grown up in a home where they were shouted at a lot, or where they were not spoken to, or emotionally affected by the parents, or there was an addiction, or there was an absent parent, or there was abuse there of some kind. The nervous system of that person is going to be more sensitive. And the reason why I want to tell you that is not because it's a defect, because it's something that when we realise, we can start to understand that, hey, Joe Bloggs, such as our partner or our friends, may not become overstimulated by something or may not be affected by something, but we are, and that's okay. When we start to validate that not everybody is the same and that all experiences affect everybody differently, we can start to realise that we've got to stop comparing ourselves against other people. And we have to learn to understand who we are. So when we start to recognise that we are possibly anxious, majority of people say, let's go and get tablets. Again, I will say, tablets won't necessarily work because this is not in your head. This is not a chemical imbalance. This is not a neurological thing. Tablets, unfortunately, don't reconnect the wires that need to be reconnected. There's nervous snaps within our body, and people with chronic anxiety have been wired in a sense that they are looking for danger, in a sense that they get overwhelmed very quickly, in a sense that the emotional regulation isn't quite there. So what do we have to do, and what have we learned that we can do? We can start to rewire ourselves. We can start to change the wiring within our brain. And how we do that is we start to make new action. So the more that we focus on isolation and hiding ourselves away and disconnecting when we're anxious, or allowing ourselves to stay in our brain and to get really caught up in our thoughts when we're anxious, the more we're wiring ourselves that way. So the wires stay like that. They will stay feeding the anxiety. But if we slowly start to change our actions, we are going to create new connections of brain wiring, okay? And what happens is the old connections of brain wiring start to break. And you start to teach your body a new way of dealing with something, which creates new connections of brain wiring. They're called snaps, so it's wiring snaps. And it starts to rewire your neurological brain, and it starts to create different chemicals. Because an anxious brain, the reason why they don't, take x-rays or MRIs of anxious brains is because if we only focus on the chemicals that are being released during anxiety, we're not realising and they're not seeing the whole shot, they're only seeing a snapshot. Because when you're not anxious, different areas of your brain light up and the chemicals are different. So that's why rewiring it is key. So first of all, recognising that you may suffer anxiety so that you can start understanding it. So if those days that you are feeling overwhelmed, because anxiety can show itself that you could be somebody goes to work and one day you can be dealing with everything in a great way, and the other day every little thing is going to wind you up. And if that regularly occurs and you don't know how to come into your body, you are going to just think that's normal. But actually your body is anxious because really in a resting state majority of the time, we should aim to be in a receptive state, a state where we can get through the world, and when things are starting to go wrong, we can deal with it. And there's going to be some stresses that we're going to struggle with. But if majority of the time you're struggling with overwhelmness of your job, your children, your home, your partner, and you're just kind of trying to keep your head above water, then there's something going on with your anxiety levels and your nervous system. So that's why learning the techniques that I've previously given you to understand, in the previous video I put up last week, understanding when your nervous system is activated and triggered. But again, I'm going to say to you, learning to feel your body. One of the things that we can start to do with our anxiety after recognising we have it is starting to change how we live. Okay, and this is really important. If you want to have a different outcome with your life, you have to commit to slowly changing how you live. And that's how I did it. I could no longer live my life running from one thing to the next, eating whatever I wanted, not drinking enough. I couldn't do it because the more I lived like that, getting drunk every weekend, not thinking about my body as a fueling station. And when I lived that way and I was chronically anxious, I didn't know that those things were affecting me. So what I had to slowly start doing was starting to change. One of them was my diet. Now, I'm not here to judge anybody's diet, but what I am here to say is your diet plays a huge part in anxiety. Caffeine is one of the biggest things that affect your anxiety, okay? And if you are drinking coffee or lots of tea or lots of things with caffeine in them, you will dysregulate your nervous system. And in time, as you start to regularly regulate your nervous system, you can have those coffees, and you can have them still now. But if you're drinking 6 cups a day, I would slowly start to say to you, start taking it down to 5, and then in time down to 4, because caffeine is one of the biggest stimulants for people who have activated nervous systems and anxious levels. So is sugar and salt. Now, I'm not saying cutting these things out completely, but I am saying being aware of how much processed food that you are eating and starting to incorporate a little bit more healthier foods, such as proteins. Start researching some, fuel for your body. Being able to look at your diet and start to understand, are you eating enough? Because some people don't eat enough. Making sure you drink water. And I know this is something people don't want to hear, and they're like, oh, I'm too busy for that. But I have to really say to you, growing and healing and changing is a commitment, and it doesn't have to be overhauled overnight. You're not going to make all these changes overnight, but slowly incorporating it one by one. Focus on your caffeine for one, and then when you've got that, then start focusing on a little bit more water. Slowly start changing it. The other is exercise. Now, I'm not telling you to go to the gym because I don't go to the gym, but what I am saying to you is getting outdoors, moving your body. If you're moving your body, it's very rare you're moving your body while you're in your head, because if you're moving your body and you're connected to what's going on around you, you are connected to what's around you and you're connected to your body. It's only when we are connected to our head and we're in our head and we're thinking constantly, are we then going to start being caught in more anxiety. It's also getting sunlight, it's getting outdoors. It's starting to realise that if you're in an office all the time, or if you've got to change your living habits, if you're always in or you're always doing the same things, start doing something a little bit different, but slowly. Go step out and walk down the end of your road and sit on a bench. It's slowly starting to make some changes. But it's also slowing down in life, full stop. Now, this is one people find extremely... It's not difficult to do, but they don't want to think about it, because we have been taught in our society that success is based on how much we achieve, how much we do, how clean our home looks. And you may think, well, she says this a lot. Because society is setting us up to fail. Society is creating unrealistic expectations that are based on who you think you should be instead of what life really is about. Life is about balance. It's about living. It's about experiencing. Because it doesn't matter how much money you have or what you own. If you are not enjoying it or resting or reflecting, then it means nothing, because you can't enjoy something you're not spending time in. And this was a key thing for me. I would literally run from one thing to the next, washing dishes, hoovering, wiping the table, always on a to-do list, going here, trying to cram as much as I can in my day, believing that the next day was going to be an easier day because I've done it. I'd rest. But the problem become then the next day, I'd be like, I'd be finding something else to do, because I always believed I had to be productive, that if I was sitting around I was just being lazy. We've been taught this. But you can never have a healthy anxiety level or nervous system if you are not resting. And resting doesn't always mean watching the TV. It can mean reading a book. It can be mindfully sitting in the garden, appreciating what is around you, spending time with people. Anxiety is the worst in people who are disconnected. If you have or struggle with connection with other people, your anxiety will be the worst. And one thing that I had to really find a balance with was vulnerability and learning to be close to others. I've been extremely hurt in my life by people. So as a child growing up where I couldn't trust people, which is a common story for many, I had to learn to re-trust people. I had to learn to not have my guard up straight away and to allow myself to be vulnerable with people. I had to learn that connection is important. It really, really is. And not just connection on the internet. It has to be connection in face, going to the shop, talking to people, spending time having a coffee, but not doing it so that that's all you ever do is you're around people, because that can be overwhelming and tiring. But making sure that you're connecting to people in a meaningful way, not gossiping, not talking about your neighbours, not talking about what's going on down the street, talking about you and them and what's going on and how do you think and how do you feel, and connecting. And this may be something you want to start with your partner or your children. And that's how I started it. And if you don't have a partner and you don't have children, choose somebody else, a neighbour or somebody that you regularly talk to. Start connecting to them a little bit deeper, listening to what they're saying, engaging with them. Because in this world right now, we're rushing. We're half listening to people. We're not listening to people. We're half engaging. We're on our phones. We're doing something else. Slow down. Anxiety and mindfulness cannot exist together. And I have found that. And this is why I don't really suffer anxiety anymore. Because when I was constantly thinking about things, worrying about things and rushing from things, my anxiety was peaking because I'm always thinking about the next thing. What am I doing? What am I doing? Who am I? Who am I meant to be? And it still does occur at times when I put that pressure on myself. But when I realise, this is what's going on, I'm slipping back into it, I go, right, mindfulness, slow down, Vicky. Because you're going to slip back into it. You're not going to get this perfect. You're going to slip back into times of anxiety. Why? Because of life. It's busy. We all have anxiety levels in us. We're meant to have them at times. Anxiety is meant to arise when things need changing. So we're trying to eradicate it, but we're not. We're needing to understand it's there for a purpose. And when it's there for a purpose, we can use it. But when it becomes chronic, it means we need to slow down and change our life. And change is slow. You're going to have to keep catching yourself as you're falling with this, meaning you're going to have a really busy few days because that's life. But you have to make sure that, okay, the next few days have to be slower. You have to incorporate that in your life. If you don't, you will keep crashing and burning. And crashing and burning happens through illness, happens through anxiety peaks, happens through a little mental breakdown, happens through wanting to shut yourself away. People are in a cycle. They're burning themselves out. They're doing, and then they're getting poorly and they're crashing, or they're wanting to pull away, or they're just chronically on edge, anxiety all the time. When we have that in our mind kind of thing going on, we will be caught. Okay, so anxiety and mindfulness do not go hand in hand. So when you have mindfulness, when you slow down, washing the dishes, connect to washing the dishes. Okay, what do I need to do next? I'll wipe the table. I'll hoover. Actually, I'm not going to do my wardrobe tonight because I've done quite a bit today. I'm going to use a couple of hours to relax. Instead of trying to cram everything into your day believing you're productive, take half your schedule out. People are going to work and coming home and cleaning their homes. Or they're going to work and they're not cleaning their homes and they're feeling overwhelmed because their homes aren't tidy. Create a little schedule for yourself. I found for me, creating little mini schedules of, and I don't have to be so rigid in it, but okay, Monday I'm going to spend, if you work Monday to Friday, 1 hour each evening or half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening, you're going to do a bit of tidying up. Half an hour in the morning, you get up, you're going to do a bit of tidying up. Half an hour in the evening, you're going to do it. And it keeps you on top of it. Instead of leaving it and leaving it and leaving it and thinking, oh, I just can't do it tonight. Or going to work as well and not doing everything for everybody. Maybe you're somebody who goes to work and you are trying to be as on the ball as you can, but you're always feeling overwhelmed. Start lowering your schedule a little bit. Start slowing down in your job. You're not getting anything extra, I suspect, for how much you're working. You know, if you're going in there and you're like rushing around trying to get as much done, you're not getting any more praise, you're not getting any more wage. And I'm not saying that you should go in there and slack, but what I am saying is go in there and learn to enjoy your job again, because you will do it more productively if you do. If you go in and you do the bare minimum in your job, you're not going to be enjoying it either. So go in there and connect more to your job, connect more to what you like about that job. And if you don't, then you might need to change your job. Why? Because anxiety can also occur when we're living a life that is not in connection to who we are. If we do a job we absolutely hate, that's going to create anxiety in you, because you're constantly doing something with no purpose. There doesn't feel a purpose to it apart from money. And money is not a driving force really for us. We believe it is because we have to pay our bills, but it's not a driving force. You have to have some connection, some love for what you're doing to be able to keep that driving force going. Otherwise, it feels monogamous, it feels repetitive, it feels you get angry at people, irritated, and it really pulls you down. So if you are working and you're not enjoying your job, you've got to start making some changes. And the mind will say, well, I can't find another job. It's not going to be as good money. It's not going to be as good this. You have to start making some choices about, you know, what happiness means to you. Because by all means, we can sell ourselves for the devil as much as we want, because we believe that that amount of money is important. But we will find a job, if we send it out to the universe and we work on ourselves and heal, that actually lifts us up and brings in the money. You just have to take that chance. And along the way, I will teach you how to face change. But also, if you don't work, finding something that gives you purpose. You have to find a hobby. You have to find something that gives you purpose. If you don't, you're going to have anxiety, because you're going to feel like, what's the meaning of life? What is all this meaning? I'm here for everyone else and nothing for myself. You have to find something that gives you a sense of purpose, whether that's helping the community, whether that's volunteering your time, whether that's setting up your own Facebook community if you're disabled. Create something, do something that has meaning, because you will have anxiety if you don't, because you will not know your purpose in this world. You will not have connection to others. And I promise you, connection to others and purpose are one of the biggest things in our life that brings us peace. When we do things that don't connect us to others in a meaningful way, that leaves us feeling, you know, as if we don't have a purpose, we will have high anxiety. And when we start to face anxiety and anxiousness and irritableness, we start to heal, and we start to become happier parents, happier partners, happier friends, happier people in the community. And we want to start enjoying life more. And your purpose can be exploring yourself more. It can be exploring yourself while wanting to help other people. You could be in a community like this one and go, actually, Vicky, I want to be a part of it by encouraging other people, by sharing parts of my story and connecting and doing things like that. It's really important for you to find a sense of purpose. A sense of purpose can be being a grandparent, it can be a parent, whatever. Your sense of purpose may change over time. Our sense of purpose isn't always one thing. But whatever it is, enjoy it. You know, if you want to be that stay-at-home mum, enjoy it. Don't put pressure on yourself to think you should be anything different right now. If your children are young, enjoy them while finding out who you are. Enjoy what you can. You know, we have to learn to stop putting this pressure on ourselves of who we should be or think we should be. So, also, again, like I've spoken in other videos, when we have anxiety, calming the body down is really important. And as you may notice, I have my back straight today. I don't always have my back straight. But I want you to I want you to engage in this little activity just for a moment, and I do this with you all of the time, and there's a reason for that. Because starting to connect to your body and touching your body and loving your body and breathing will really start bringing you into awareness of your body. So I want you to have your back straight and put your arms up, or I want you to do a big sigh. I want you to take a slow breath in through your nose. And I want you to feel your abdomen come out. Okay. And I want you to sit comfortably with this. And then I want you to breathe out through your mouth like this. As you're breathing in, I want you to feel your arms and your shoulders rising. Then as you're releasing through your mouth slowly, let it all go down. You might want to slouch into your position a bit. You may want to close your eyes like me. Got a little itch. Actually, see, as I'm connecting to my body, I'm starting to feel little itches in my body. So you may feel sensations as you start to connect your body, like you need to move it and like you need to itch apart, and that's okay. That's you starting to feel your body. The more that you connect to doing this kind of breathing movement, the more you are slowing down your nervous system and the more you're connecting to your body. Anxiety is occurring because you're not in your body, you're in your head. When we have monkey mind and a mind that thinks a lot, like is always thinking about something, it's because you've trained the wires in your brain to think. We believe that we can heal everything through thought, but we can't. We have to heal things through body as well. And sometimes not sometimes, but quite often, regularly, we have to sit with our body and we have to connect to the feelings in it. We have to relax, we have to read a book, we have to connect to something, that's greater than us. People, books, children. We need to come out of our head. Now, sitting with your body is important with anxiety, but also sometimes distracting yourself is important. If you're feeling like you're having an anxiety attack or things are getting too much, you need to distract yourself. So while it's really key to being in your body at times, sometimes you can be too much in your body. So when anxiety attacks are occurring or you're feeling extremely overwhelmed, that means you're too much in your mind, you're too much in your body, you're too much in what's going on. So when I become very, very overwhelmed, or I become feeling like I'm becoming hugely, now I know it's anxious, I didn't know that before, I distract myself, I get out my house. So if I'm in my home and everything's overwhelming, such as noise, such as clutter, such as dirt, and I'm feeling like so much needs doing in my home, which is one of the things that used to trigger me, I get out my home. I get out my home and I go out the day, I'll do something. When I come back, it doesn't feel so bad. Or I'll go and speak to somebody, or see somebody, or ring somebody. Or read a book. I will do something that will take me out of my brain, take me out of my body, and it will lead me to connect to something different, because that's mindfulness. If you're doing that, you can't be in your brain. You can't be in your brain and connected to something else at once. So it's about learning the balance of this, knowing that doing these regular exercises is really key. You could even do this, like relaxing, moving your shoulders like this, because it moves the tension from your shoulders, and then you can relax it. Rolling your head. You may hear clicks, it's okay, only do what you feel safe and comfortable doing. What it's doing is it's moving the energy out through your body. But as you start to slow down, there is no way if you start to slow down in your life, but if somebody is too slow in their life and they don't have much going on and you're always sitting watching TV, or you're always in your home, then you need to create a bit of activity in your life. So that means you need to start, going out or going to groups. You may say, well, I'm too anxious for that. Slowly start stepping into your anxiety, in the sense it's called exposure. Okay, start exposing yourself slowly to something that creates anxiety. If it's being around a lot of people, go somewhere where there's a few people but not a lot, and start slowly integrating yourself. So standing near these people, feeling those uncomfortable feelings. You may feel a rise of panic, just feeling those feelings, but connecting to what's going on around you. When I was going through my worst anxiety, I couldn't leave the home, and I had to slowly start doing things bit by bit. The reason why your body is going into panic mode or anxiety mode is because the more you avoid something that creates anxiety, the more you're telling your body there's a problem. So the more I avoided areas of lots of people, the more I was telling my body there was a problem. But the problem was, every time I was around lots of people, I would become depersonalized. Everything would become surreal, and I would start to have a panic attack. So I slowly had to start integrating myself. I had to take myself where some people were, but not a lot of people. And I had to slowly start doing this so that I could... It's about reaffirming to your body that there is nothing to fear, okay? And at this point, I chose one thing at a time. Don't start suddenly trying to choose everything that you're fearful of. But when you start doing the one thing at a time slowly, you are building new brain waves and connections in your brain that's telling you there's nothing to fear. And then what happens is you start to build confidence knowing that you face that. And so I'd pick something small, pick one of the smallest things that you're fearful of, and slowly start working to expose yourself to it. You know, and you may need somebody else along with you to help you. And the thing is, when we start to go into a panic attack, your panic attack, you know, depending on how extreme this is for you, you know, you may need somebody else with you. But majority of us, I had to start feeling my panic attack, slowing my body down. When I was starting to feel panicky, I was going to have a panic attack. You've got to reconnect to your breath. Slow your breath down. Because the reason why you're panicking is because you're taking less oxygen in, you're fearing something's going to go on, because you've reaffirmed to your body that there's something to fear. But you start to build confidence with yourself when you slowly start to face the things that create anxiety with you. And in time, you will start to be able to do things that you never thought you would be able to do, because you have faced these and built confidence over facing these things you never thought you'd be able to face. And it really gives you a sense of achievement. Your body is something, if you work with it, you can really love it and understand it and create something with it that can be your best friend and not your enemy. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to feel anxiety over something. You're meant to feel normal anxiety, but understanding when it's ruling your life is starting, because the more we hide from the things that rule our life, the more they're going to rule our life. And then what happens is the more things start to rule our life, because it has to get bigger. You won't just, you know, your brain searches for more things to be scared of. And this is why people end up in agoraphobia, because it starts with one thing and then it starts to escalate over time. Because as soon as you're telling your brain, yes, that is fearful, your brain starts to look for other things that could potentially be fearful, could potentially be dangerous. So slowly starting to face. You know, it could take you 12 months, it could take you 2 years to face one thing. You know, if you struggle with crowds, it could take you 3 years. That's okay. That's okay. Slowly start to do things, going to the end of the road where you know people are, and feeling the feelings. Reminding yourself, I am safe and I am here and okay. Looking for things to keep you grounded. Looking at your hands. Building a sense of safety in yourself. And this is how, when we start to build a sense of safety in ourselves, we start to work with our root chakra. You know, we'll put some root chakra stuff up, but working with our root chakra to build a sense of safety. Okay, and next week, I think it's next week from this video, there's going to be talking about how to create senses of safety, so that we can start to feel safe in ourselves and start to feel safe in our body and safe in our lives. I hope you've gotten something from this video. Do pop any comments underneath, and I really enjoy keep bringing this work to you and, you know, working on our healing journey as time goes on. All my love to you.